Okay, boys and girls, dogs and cats, birds and worms, time to start learning about how muscles work. There's a picture of me when I was 8 years old. No, that's not me. Of course, you knew I was lying because how would you know? Because they didn't have cameras when I was 8 years old. Alright, so muscular tissue, it does a lot of things for us, such as allows your body to move, alright? If it weren't for muscles, about all you could do would be to play second base, where you would be second base. People would run past you and step on you. You wouldn't be able to move around. Muscles allow us to move around. They, even just standing still, if you're just standing straight up, it takes, I don't know, something like 300 muscles just to allow you to stand still. Just to sit up straight. I mean, think about it. When somebody's really drunk and you sit them up, what happens? Yeah, they fall over. It takes a lot of muscles to keep you even just sitting up straight. They store and move substances inside the body. So as we're going to see, there are three kinds of muscle tissue. Two that we're going to focus on more than the others in Bio 201. We'll save another one for Bio 202. But skeletal muscles are the one you see in the picture. Those are around the outside of your body. But most of your internal organs are made of smooth muscle. So all of your intestines and your stomach and your liver and your kidneys and so on. So they move stuff around. Muscles move things inside your body. They generate heat. Remember, aerobic respiration, oxygen and glucose make ATP plus water plus CO2 plus heat. So that's why when you get cold, you shiver. It warms you up because you make more ATP and you generate more heat. Properties that muscles have, so electrical excitability. So muscles don't just move whenever they want to. They only move when they get an impulse telling them to do so, and those are electrical impulses from the nervous system. Muscles can contract. Remember, muscular tissue is the only kind of tissue that can contract. Extensibility, so that means muscles can stretch out, and then elasticity, they can snap back to their original form. All right, both contractility and both extensibility and elasticity. Now, get used to the fact that a lot of words, if they start with MYS, mice, MYO, myo, and sarco, those will often refer to muscle tissue. And make sure it's sarco, not sacro, okay? There's nothing sacred about muscles. If you put SACRO, that'll be minus 50. Sarco means flesh. Like you may have seen the word sarcophagus. Phage means eat, sarco flesh. A sarcophagus is where you put dead bodies, and when you come back a couple of years later, there's no more skin and muscle left on them. It's almost like the sarcophagus ate the flesh. So, sarco, there's R. Lee Ermey from the great movie Stanley Kubrick, Full Metal Jacket. He used to just cuss people out. Don't you put sacro. Alright, muscles are not sacred. It's not like this. It's sarco, that's flesh. So there are three different kinds of muscle tissue in the human body. The ones we're going to spend most of our time on here in Bio 201 are skeletal muscles. Why are they called skeletal muscles? Because they follow the bones of your body for the most part. They are striated. What does the word striated mean? Striped. So look in the upper left. See how that muscle fiber has those stripes on it, those dark stripes? That's striated, all right? It's mostly voluntary, all right? You don't have to think. I mean, your muscles only move when you think about them. So your arm only moves when you want it to move. But you do have some muscles that some skeletal muscles that tend to be more involuntary. So like, your eyelids, think about it. You blink all the time. You're not really thinking about it. You don't have to will yourself to blink. I mean, you can if you want to. You can blink faster, or you can try not blinking to show those contests like in elementary school. Stare at each other, see who would blink first. But what happens is you just have automatic nerve signals that go to those muscles. And what's the purpose of blinking? Basically, it just cleans your eye. You're always producing a little bit of tears. And so blinking just spreads the tears over the surface of your eye. Just kind of like you do in your car. You press that button, the water comes out, and the windshield wipers go. Yeah, that's what blinking is. And then, of course, there's a big muscle at the bottom of your rib cage called your diaphragm. And that automatically gets a signal 12 to 20 times per minute. Otherwise, you die every night when you went to sleep. So some skeletal muscles are somewhat involuntary in the sense that they get a regular signal. But generally speaking, we can control whether or not we move involuntary muscles. You can hold your breath, at least for a while. Cardiac muscle tissue is in a lot of ways the same as skeletal muscle tissue. It's also striated, but look at the picture on the left, in the middle. Compare that to the picture on the left on the top. What do you notice is different, all right? Well, think about that for a minute. So cardiac muscle is involuntary, all right? I mean, go ahead, prove me wrong. Make your heart stop beating right now. Let's see you do it. Yeah, you're at home, you're claiming you can. You know I can't check. No, you can't do that. Cardiac muscle goes by itself, and that's once again because it gets an automatic signal to keep beating, all right? Now, going back to the picture, what's so different there? Fibers are branched and connected. So notice, you see, it looks kind of like the upper left picture, except that there are a bunch of them and they're all connected together. See those little zigzag dark lines? Those are called intercalated discs. We'll talk about those again. And then notice how they're branched. Why is that the case with cardiac muscle? Because you never want just one part of the heart beating when the other parts of the heart aren't. You want the heart to beat as an entire unit. And so that's what's going on there. All the fibers are connected together and they're branched out so that the heart is essentially like one giant interconnected net of muscle. And when any part of it beats, the rest of it also has to beat, okay? It's autorhythmic is what we call it, autorhythmic. It beats on its own, all right? I had a girlfriend in high school who was kind of autorhythmic. So, but yeah, the heart beats on its own, generates its own rhythm. Smooth muscle tissue, this is the last one here. Notice it's not striated. It doesn't have those stripes, see? And it's involuntary, all right? So smooth muscle, again, where do you find it? Well, the walls of internal organs and also in your blood vessels and airways. So that's how your blood vessels constrict and dilate, and that's one of the main control methods in your body for controlling blood pressure. And your internal organs, again, are made of smooth muscle for the most part, and they're involuntary, because if you could control them, you'd screw them up just like you've screwed up everything else in your life. I mean, or go ahead, prove me wrong. Make your gallbladder secrete some bile right now. Yeah, you can't do it. You're sitting there going, no, you can't do it. One semester I had somebody pop a potato chip into their mouth. That was very clever, because when they chewed it up and swallowed it, then they probably would secrete some bile. But that was cheating, and I told them so. I actually gave them 1/1,000,000th of a point of extra credit, because that was brilliant. Okay? Now, skeletal muscle tissue, here you go, all right? That's kind of what it looks like. So you've seen it before. When you go to the store and buy meat, that's what you're buying. You're buying skeletal muscle tissues from other animals, usually. I hope it's not humans. I don't know, you never know at Food City. But generally speaking, it's animal muscle. So skeletal muscles are surrounded by fascia, all right? Fascia is basically a type of connective tissue. The superficial fascia is what we've formerly been calling the hypodermis, or the subcutaneous layer. That's what separates muscle from the skin, all right? That's why I kept emphasizing when we were studying it before that the hypodermis was not part of the skin. It's part of the muscle tissue. It's called the superficial fascia. It contains adipose, nerves, blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, lots of stuff, all right, and to provide nutrients for the muscles. Stores most of your body's triglycerides and retains heat. Remember, triglyceride is a lipid. It's one of the main fat in your diet, and it's also the main fat that you use to store energy. And it also retains heat. So you have a layer of subcutaneous fat, which we call your superficial fascia, your hypodermis. That's why we tend to maintain a constant body temperature. Reptiles, for example, don't have that layer, and that's why they are ectotherms. Their body temperature changes with their outside environment. The deep fascia, on the other hand, lines body walls and holds muscles with similar functions together. So look at that diagram on the left. All right, see the thick layer of yellow around the outside? That's the superficial fascia, okay? That's the hypodermis. But then see the thin white lines that are kind of dividing up the inside of the muscle there? Those are the deep fascia. Notice for a moment, see where it says anterior compartment? Then it lists vastus lateralis, vastus intermedius, vastus medialis, rectus femoris, sartorius. So all of those muscles have basically the same function in the human body. And so they've got deep fascia that kind of separate them into their own compartment. And then look on the back side of the muscle, on the far left, you see The medial compartment with adductor magnus, adductor brevis, gracilis, adductor longus. Once again, those muscles are all adductors. So they're all grouped in their own little compartment. That's kind of what deep fascia does. It segregates muscles into ones that work together. That kind of helps them work together better. So those are the deep fascia, all right? And know your cuts of meat, all right? If you went to the store and you wanted to buy this cut of meat, beef shank cut is what you would ask for. They slice right through the leg of a cow. Usually a cow. Again, Food City, you never know. Could be humans, could be horses. Who knows? Normally it's a cow, though. So take a look there at the picture on the upper left. What do we see there? Yeah, steak. But you know, what's all that fat around the outside? Some of the stuff that you often cut off. What is that? What is that fat around the outside of the steak? We just learned the technical name for it. Yeah, that's superficial fascia. And then see how the steak is kind of marbled, or how it's got, you know, the steak on the right there. See how it's got big line of white then separating out different parts of the steak? That would be deep fascia again, all right? So, and there you see, that's, you know, that's what the butcher does. They cut up the cows. You got your round, your loin, your rib, your chuck, your brisket, your plate, your flank. That's what it comes down to. It's all muscle. That's what they're doing. You're eating cow muscle when you eat a steak. When you eat hamburger, that's cow muscle. You can do the same thing with unicorns. You know, divide them up. You got the magic, the hopes, the hugs, the surprises, you know, the sunshine, the stars, the rainbows. Oh, yeah, the giggles. And, yeah, you can get this at Food City. Unicorn meat, Radiant Farms. Excellent source of sparkles. Magic in every bite. Okay, layers of the deep fascia. So, again, this is the stuff not around the outside. This is the stuff down inside. There are three layers that extend from the deep fascia: the endomysium, the perimysium, and the epimysium. So you already know those prefixes: endo, inside; peri, around; epi, outside. So the endomysium goes around individual muscle fibers, which are the same as muscle cells. Get used to that right now. Marry those words together into your head. A muscle fiber is a muscle cell. One muscle fiber equals one muscle cell, right? It's not my fault. They did that before I was born, but that's how it works. They mean exactly the same thing. And an individual muscle fiber or cell is surrounded by endomysium. Again, that's a layer of the deep fascia. Contains capillaries and nerves for nutrients. Also contains these things called myosatellite cells, which are stem cells which repair damage. Muscles can generally repair themselves pretty well. All right, you know, during sports and stuff like that, you can injure muscles a little bit. Well, they got stem cells right in there, and so they can do the repair. Happens a lot when you sleep under the influence of growth hormone. Then muscles are grouped into these units called fascicles, not popsicles, but fascicles. So somewhere around 10 to 100 muscle fibers are all bundled together into something called a fascicle, all right? And the fascicle is surrounded by perimysium. So look in the bottom right, all right? So you see the entire muscle, which is surrounded by epimysium. We didn't mention that, so we're just previewing that. Then see that big chunk coming out towards you? That's a fascicle, which is surrounded by perimysium, all right? And then see that individual muscle fibers sticking out? That would be surrounded by endomysium, okay? So, and once again, the perimysium has blood vessels and nerves to provide nutrients for the muscle. Taking another look then here, the epimysium goes around the entire muscle. So look in the upper left. You can see how the muscles attach to the bone by a what? What connects muscles to bones? Right, tendons do. Ligaments connect bone to bone. Muscle connects tendon to bone. So the epimysium goes around the entire muscle. And then what's going to happen here is that the tendon is actually formed by the three layers of the deep fascia together. So the epimysium, the perimysium, and the endomysium all extend past the end of the muscle, and they become the tendon, which holds the muscle onto the periosteum of the bone, the fibrous periosteum. That's why I've been saying a lot, you know, tendons are part of the muscle. They are actually muscle tissue. They are actually deep fascia. All three layers, epimysium, perimysium, endomysium, all merge together to make the tendon. That's what it is. Epimysium, exterior layer of collagen fibers connected to the hypodermis. Okay, so they're right next to it. They're right immediately adjacent to each other. And that's what separates muscle from surrounding tissues, all right? That's why your skin can move independently over the top of your muscle. It's the fact that there's hypodermis or superficial fascia in between. So you can see the muscle is surrounded by epimysium, the entire muscle. Then the fascicle is surrounded by perimysium, and then an individual muscle fiber is surrounded by endomysium. Okay, it's not hard, you just have to get used to it. Here, a nice slide that I'm not going to go over in any detail, but it's a nice study slide. Go back to that. It shows all the layers right there. So, layers of the deep fascia, all three layers extend past the muscle to form a tendon. All right, that's what we see in the upper left. That tendon that you see there, connecting the muscle to the periosteum and onto the bone, that would be made up of epimysium, perimysium, and endomysium, all merged together. Tendon connects the muscle to the bone. Broad flat tendon, by the way, is known as an aponeurosis. So on top of your skull, you have the epicranial aponeurosis. That's the middle part of the occipitofrontalis muscle. So that's actually a big, giant, flat tendon that covers your scalp. You also have another one in your palm, the palmar aponeurosis. Why do you suppose you have one in your palm? Think about it. Why would you have an aponeurosis in your palm? Yeah, think about it every day as you go through life. You're picking things up, you're leaning against things, and so on. You get a lot of use out of your hand, and your hand, the palmar surface of your hand, comes into contact with the world a lot. So you've got an extra layer of protection there. The big palmar aponeurosis helps protect your hand. Okay, so which type of muscle is striated but is generally not under voluntary control? Would that be skeletal, gastric, smooth, pulmonary, or cardiac? Pause the video, come back. Yeah, cardiac. It's striated just like skeletal muscle, but it's usually not under voluntary control, except for those of you who claim you can stop your heart. And you know you can't. You know you're lying.